So after having a greenhouse here for years and years and having this polyplastic covering the roof and the sides here, we've decided that we're just really not super impressed with it anymore and we want to replace it, spruce up this whole little unit here. So let's give that a try, see how she turns out. Now the first step with that is actually pulling off these wood strips. These were actually 1x4s that I had ripped on a table saw and then just brad nailed on to hold the polyplastic in place. We did that all over this greenhouse here, so it's just a simple matter of prying them off. And as seems to happen with any sort of actual home renovation operation, the job is going to be a bit bigger than anticipated. I've got some rotted out wood here on the top beams of the structure, so I'm going to have to replace some of these 2x4s here. So that'll be a task I need to do before doing the roof. So now that I kind of have some of this stuff exposed here, I can start the very difficult to do with one hand, laborious process here of detaching this. This was all originally put together with nails, but that's going to change when I go to rebuild it. Like jeepers, look at this wood here, just rotted right out. Yep. Really glad I'm doing this. You know those projects you start on and then they get all projecty and get out of control? Well, that was this one. The amount of wood that I found that was rotting out that I just did not want to leave in there. I mean, this greenhouse is like 15 years old, so fair enough, especially with some of the defects in the poly and things that were happening there. But I've gotten rid of all of the wood that I am not comfortable with. Please forgive the state of my greenhouse. This has been a horrible growing year. Anyway, now it's time to rebuild. Well, we are partway through this overhaul here. I still have a few more boards to get in here. There was definitely some design change in order to accommodate the panels, which like one panel would go there, another panel would go here. So instead of that one 16-footer that just ran across the middle, I'm going to have two different horizontal strips that run across there. To protect the wood on the greenhouse, just so that it lasts quite a bit better, we're using this Bare Premium Transparent Waterproofing Wood Finish. It's in the Cedar Natural tone, just the original color that this comes in. We like that, and it's going to match the chicken coop. And main rebuilding is complete, other than actually making the window and sort of redoing the door, because that needed a little bit of tweaking. You can see here that I now have two main horizontal strips. That's to accommodate 1, 2.5 of the polycarbonate panels that are going to be going on here, and then bracers in the middle of those as well, just to offer some support, particularly since the wind is almost always blasting that direction. I didn't want them to bow in. Roof is done, so really now it's just time to get the panels on. All right, so for the panels that are actually going to cover the greenhouse now, I've got this 4mm thick polycarbonate greenhouse paneling. They come with this film on them just to protect them, but it peels off really quite easily. We're going to be attaching them to the greenhouse using 1-inch number 8 wood/metal screws. They're nice because they have that pan head on them. I'm also going to use these fender washers. They are 3/16 fender washers here, and that'll just help distribute the weight a little bit, make them a little less likely to tear or anything like that. Now, I do recognize that there are these fluted edges here on the short side here of these panels. Theoretically, some dust and stuff might get in there. However, we're not super worried about that. A person could go to some lengths trying to cover them using some sort of like a dust tape or some sort of trim or something like that. We don't like how that's going to look at our greenhouse, so we're just going to attach as is. All right, so we already have our first row here installed. At the floor, we're just butting everything up against butting everything up against the other one. It's really hot out here. My brain isn't quite functioning anymore. Just going real slow, just so we don't create too much of a dimple here where water could collect. We're just doing, for now, 6 screws per. Okay, so when you go to actually cut these panels, if you need to, it's super easy. Just leave the film on. All I've done here is I just threw a few measurement lines on here. That's the measurement that I needed. I'm just going to line up my straight edge here. I'm just using a 4-foot level. And then just using a utility blade, running along there. Just like that, comes right off. Then you can peel off your film, you're good to go. Well, now we have a bunch of the panels up here. See, they're just secured nicely. and that's preventing them from wobbling around here at all, which is nice. All that's left to do is to actually install the door, which is over there, just drying, and the window. So getting those put up and then putting on the panels for them. All right, so the end's in sight here. I've gone ahead and dropped a screw. I've hung the door with the hinges here. I'm just going to put the latch on for hardware. Then we still have to hang and mount the window there as well and get the panels on those. And then everything's pretty much done. So I got that door hardware all done here. Additionally, I wound up just putting on this little hook so that, as is the majority of the time here in the summer, I can just leave this door latched open. It's just like that. And that allows for good airflow between there and the window, which is installed here. I just used these 1.5-inch utility hinges and just some, essentially a 2x4 that I cut in half to make sort of like a 2x2 here. And with the window as well, I threw a couple of these black barrel bolts on just so that they match. Nice black handle, and that also sort of stays in line with the hardware that I have on the chicken coop there. Oh, did pretty good. Even with chunks of trees coming down, massive hail here. Whew. Yep, held up beautifully. So all in, this was definitely a larger project than originally anticipated just because of that wood that had to be replaced. However, we're really happy that we did this. Those T-Bell greenhouse panels worked really well. They were a snap to install. Really, it was just reconfiguring the actual layout of this greenhouse. If I was building one right from scratch, it would have been sort of planned out that way with the orientation of the 2x4s and everything for bracing right off the bat. And we're really happy that we have this, and it now kind of matches that chicken coop using that waterproofing wood treatment product from Bear. And overall, I'd say that we went from sort of a sad looking greenhouse here to something that comes a little bit closer to 11.